When counting how many ways combinations of events can occur, we have the fundamental counting principle, and a lot of different counting applications come back to this principle. So this principle, it's stated here in terms of 2 events, but you can actually extend it to as many events as you want. So if you have 2 different events, E1 and E2, we look at the number of ways that each of those events can occur. In other words, how many maybe I'm rolling a die. How many ways can I get an even number? Well, there would be 3 ways, okay? And then after that's occurred, our second event can occur in M2 different ways, all right? We say after E1 has occurred because sometimes that second event will depend on the first event. So, for example, if I draw a card out of a deck of cards, for my event 1, that could be, drawing drawing a 5, okay? If I keep that card and then I pull another card, then of course the number of ways that something could happen might change here, because if my event 2 is also drawing a 5, like if my first event, if I did draw a 5, then that would reduce my second event. So there could be some dependence there. So we've got these 2 different ways, the M1 ways for the first event, M2 ways for the second event. Then the number of ways the 2 events can occur together is the product, M1 times M2. Okay. One of the ways that this, to understand why this is the case, is to look at like a table. I'm just going to use dice as an example. If I roll a dice 2 times, okay, or I roll 2 dice, I'll say, my first die could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And my second die could also be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. And I can draw a little table here where I can kind of look at a grid, and each spot on the grid would represent one combination, okay? Where we see, oh, well, if the first die is a 1, the second could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6. If the first is a 2, the second could be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or 6, right? And so that's where the multiplication comes. You can see the 6 times 6. So this is the fundamental counting principle. This is just one way of thinking about it, is, kind of thinking of a table. You could also think of it as kind of pairing off your possibilities. You could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And say, well, each of the values over here, 1 has to pair to all 6, right? And then, and 2 has to pair to all 6, and so on. I'm not going to finish it off, but that's the idea. And of course, that gives us our 6 times 6. Now this, as I said, here it's stated in terms of 2 events, but it can be extended to more events, right? So if you've got 4 different events, you just multiply how many each of those can be done to get the total possible ways to have all of the events together.